How do you picture God? What is your image of God? I asked this question of a kindergarten class of Sunday school once, and I was amazed at the pictures that they drew. Some drew God in the clouds. Some drew God in a church. Many drew God sitting on a throne as a king. The most interesting drawing I received from a girl drew a picture of God sitting on the throne, but God had two heads. One was male and one was female. Today, in the two readings that we have, that you've heard, we have two very different images of God. In the psalm that Juliana read for us so beautifully today, we have a picture of God that talks about God as high and holy and lifted up and full of majesty and power and authority. Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? And who shall stand in his holy place? Those who have clean hands and pure hearts, who do not lift up their souls to what is false, and do not swear deceitfully. This presents an image of God who is high and holy and lifted up. And the only people that can ascend to that high holy throne on which God delivers judgments on his people are those who have clean hands and pure hearts and who are free from all sin and all blemish. Now, this image may sound familiar to you because it's one that many of us were raised on. This very high, holy, powerful king, right? And it's a good image. But if that's the only image that we hear, sometimes it can be interpreted as that God is always testing us, always criticizing us, always condemning us, always judging us, always punishing us. And if that is the only image of God that you have, then often that produces two kinds of followers. One is that we realize that we are not worthy. We're not good enough. We're not righteous enough to even go to God. And so we realize we have to fix ourselves. We got to make ourselves better. And so we do. We work hard at it. And we become really good. But we forget the struggle that it took to get here. And we also forget that we couldn't have done it alone. But we think we did. And we think we're so great that we don't need to be saved anymore. We've saved ourselves. And then we look at other people differently. We judge them that they're not as good as we are. We become so full of pride that we couldn't recognize grace if it was put right in front of us. With this kind of God as our only image, another kind of follower is that we realize that we are not worthy of even approaching this throne of God. And so we don't. We turn away and we go our own way. And we realize that we are unworthy and unloved. We are so full of self-judgment and criticism that we couldn't recognize grace if it were put right in front of us. In our gospel reading for today, however, we have a very different image of God that's presented. So God is not this high and holy and set-apart God, but God has come down in the person of Jesus. And who may come to Jesus? Well, not only those with clean hands and pure hearts, but we read that Jesus is casting out demons and he's healing those with diseases. And even though he hears that Herod is trying to kill him, he has to stay and finish his work. He reaches out and he touches those who are sick, and he heals them. And then we hear Jesus speak these words of lament. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. Here we have a very different picture, don't we? Jesus desires to reach out to those in Jerusalem who have killed prophets. Jesus desires to reach out to those who have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Jesus desires to reach out to those who have lost their way and are a long way from the throne of God. Jesus desires even them. Jesus desires even us. And yet, we resist. We are not willing. We turn away. We run away. We insist on going our own crooked path in search of truth. And still, God desires us. How long I have desired to gather you together, and yet you were not willing. Still, God longs for us. Why? Maybe God yearns to show us how beautifully we have been made and how deeply we are loved just as we are. Maybe God desires to show us the love that is at the very core of our being, that we often ignore, seeking affirmation elsewhere. Maybe God yearns to show us our true selves that are a reflection of God. Maybe God yearns to gather us together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings. This week I read an interesting article by one of my favorite authors, Barbara Brown Taylor. She's a teacher, a preacher, a writer. She's also a farmer in Georgia. And about this gospel story, she wrote an interesting article called Barnyard Behavior. And it was about the experience that she had when she bought a hen to help mother an orphaned baby chick. And this is what she writes. First, I lay on the grass while the hen and the baby watched each other through the mesh of the cage. Then I placed her inside. Both she and the baby froze. The baby cheeped. The hen did not move a feather. The baby cheeped again. The hen stayed right where she was. The baby took a few steps toward her. I held my breath. The gray hen lifted her wings. The baby scooted right into that open door. And when I checked on them an hour later, all I could see was a little guinea chick head poking out from under the gray hen's wing. Every time I introduce this hen to a new baby chick with nowhere else to go, I can feel the back of my throat get tight. Please, please, please don't peck this baby, I plead. It's so little. It has never laid eyes on any mama but you. Then I set the chick in the cage with her, sitting down where I can watch what happens. The baby cheeps. The hen does not move a feather. The baby cheeps again. The hen stays right where she is. The baby takes a few steps toward her. The hen lifts her wings as if to say, "Come to mama, honey." She accepts all comers, no questions asked. She has never seen a chick she didn't like. Under God's wings, there is plenty of room. Whoever you are, whatever you have done, however you see yourself as not worthy or not needy. So what if we admitted our dependence and found our place under God's protective wing? What if we, in yielding our desire to God, awakened our own desire for God? What if we found that in our looking, after all, we find the one who has been looking for us, after all? Then maybe we could see the grace that has been put right in front of us. And then we can see ourselves and one another as God sees us, precious and beloved. So are you willing to let go of those pictures of God or of yourself that don't serve you? Are you willing to let God show you the face of mercy and the wings of welcome, under which there is always room and plenty more? Because as you see, God welcomes all, accepts all comers. God has never met a chick that she doesn't like. So picture this: God opening up her wings of welcome and love and saying to you, "Come to mama, honey." Thanks be to God.